Hello everyone, and welcome to Nightmare Patrol. If you love terrifying stories and spine-chilling encounters, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new nightmare. And tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because what you're about to hear might just keep you up tonight. I've been a detective for over 10 years. In that time, I've seen things that would keep anyone awake for weeks. But nothing, absolutely nothing, has haunted me as much as the case of the woman who walked into the station at 12:17 a.m. on a cold, silent night. Her face swollen, lips split, and a baby cradled in her arms. At first, she didn't say a word. She just cried, clutching that baby with an almost desperate grip. Her eyes were glazed over, like she had just escaped from hell itself. And maybe she had. When we finally managed to calm her down, she dropped the bombshell she had been brutally raped by her ex-boyfriend. He attacked her during an argument about custody of their child. And yes, the baby saw everything. The description of the crime was one of the most violent and sadistic I've ever heard. I won't go into the details, not out of fear, but out of respect. I don't want you having nightmares tonight. Or maybe I do. She said that at one point he pressed a knife against her throat. She felt the blade cut her skin. She bled. And then out of nowhere he stopped. Just stopped, like something invisible had pulled him back. He fled the apartment, dropping the knife on the floor. That's when things started getting strange. I was assigned to the case because I'm one of the region's specialists in sexual crimes, and more specifically, one of the few forensic child interviewers around. This means that even though the child was very young, I had the right techniques to talk to him without leading his answers, always respecting ethical and emotional boundaries. He was just over 3 years old, but had an impressive vocabulary. Sharp, attentive. When I entered the room, he was holding a doll and humming softly. I introduced myself, played with him a bit, and then we started talking. "Do you remember what happened to Mommy?" I asked gently. He stopped playing and looked down. "Daddy got mad, really mad. He hit Mommy," Mommy cried. His voice trembled. And then he hesitated, furrowed his brow like something very important was about to be said. Then the nice woman came. "Nice woman?" He nodded. She was all shiny, but not shiny like light, shiny like calm. Like when you're happy. And I was happy. She hugged me, said everything was going to be okay. And she sang a song, but I didn't understand it. It was different. What happened next? She hid me. We stayed in the corner. She stayed between me and Daddy. I couldn't see anything else, just her. She looked big, really big. And then he said something that sent chills down my spine. The nice woman knocked on the door. Tap, tap, tap. Really loud. I didn't see her leave, but she knocked on the door. The apartment door? Yes, then Daddy ran away, ran scared. I took a deep breath. And then she helped Mommy up, picked me up, put us in the car. Mommy didn't see her, but I did. And what happened after that? He smiled. She flew up to the sky. That was the end of the child's interview. I couldn't ask anything more without breaking protocol, but the image of that shiny woman, it haunted me. I went back to the station with my mind racing. Then, a few hours later, we got lucky. The suspect was caught at a gas station 30 kilometers from town. He was nervous, dirty, eyes wide open. He confessed everything, every detail, without hesitation. But what struck me most was when I asked about the moment he put the knife to the victim's throat. He said, "I swear to God I was going to kill her. I swear." The blade was already cutting in. I was ready. But then I heard a knock on the door. Strong. Very strong. I thought it was the police, but when I looked, no one was there. No sirens, no lights, nothing. It gave me panic. I ran. I looked him straight in the eyes. "But you really heard it?" "Yes." 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. And a presence, man. I felt something there. A weird warmth, like someone was pushing me with their eyes. He lowered his head. I've never been so scared in my life. The case was closed. He got life in prison. The woman survived. The baby survived. And today they live far away under protection. But the nice woman, she never left my mind. I talked to other professionals. Some said it's common for children to create imaginary figures to cope with trauma. A kind of mind's protection, an invention to explain the unexplainable. But that knock on the door, the attacker's reaction, the way the mother said he just stopped for no reason. There are things that can't be explained by logic. There are moments when something or someone intervenes. Maybe an angel, maybe an entity, or maybe fear itself, taking a form only the innocent can see. The truth is, we don't know who or what the nice woman was, but she saved a life, maybe two. And if there's anything sacred or supernatural in this world, I'm sure she was there that night. I've been a police officer for years. I've seen all kinds of things, desperate people, crime scenes straight out of horror movies. But that night, on a lonely mountain road, something happened that completely shook me. And to this day, I still can't explain what I saw. It all started with what seemed like a ridiculous call. I was on patrol with a partner when dispatch sent us the report. A resident says there are several people on her property, holding a baby above their heads, and singing. I looked at my partner and almost laughed. It was late at night in a remote mountainous area, and the description sounded like something out of a low-budget cult movie. Still, we hit the road. It was one of those cold, silent nights where even the crickets seemed too scared to make a sound. After about 20 minutes climbing the mountain, we arrived. The address was isolated, barely any houses nearby. The air felt thick, dark. The property had an old, creaky gate surrounded by forest on 3 sides. The house was small, made of dark wood with peeling paint, 2 weak lights dimly lighting the front porch. Something about that house gave me an immediate feeling of unease. I walked up to the door. The silence was so absolute I could hear my own breathing. I knocked. Knock. 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 Then I heard it. Something moved to my left. Fast. Large. I spun around sharply, flashlight in hand. Nothing. The yard was empty. I went back to the door, feeling tense. I knocked again. Then I heard voices. Inside the house. A man and a woman. They were either arguing or speaking so quietly I couldn't make out the words. I sighed in relief, thinking maybe the movement I heard was just the house settling. The door opened. It was a woman. Alone. Her face was pale, eyes wide open. She was shaking and barely able to speak. "Please come in." Lock the door. I stepped inside, confused. The house was silent. No sign of the other voice I'd heard. She led me to the living room where there was a small monitor, one of those cheap baby monitors with video and audio. On the screen, a live feed showed the exact yard I had just been in. Empty. The picture was grainy and low quality, but I could see. The audio, however, was muted. I asked, "Where's the man who was here with you?" She froze, slowly turned to me. "What man?" I heard someone talking. A man. "You were talking while I knocked on the door." She shook her head, terrified. "I'm alone here." I asked my partner to search the house. No one else. No sign of another person. Meanwhile, she started explaining. She said she was reading when she heard a strange sound on the monitor. When she looked, she saw 2 people standing outside the house. One was holding something in their arms, then they started banging on the door. That's when she called the police. As she spoke, the monitor began emitting a loud, high-pitched, disturbing noise-like static mixed with a strong wind. But outside, there was no wind. Everything was still. I stared at the monitor. Nothing in the image. Just the empty yard. "What is that?" I whispered. She looked at me, her eyes hollow with fear. "It's them." At that moment, my partner returned to the room. His face showed he felt it too, that something was wrong. The woman then handed us her phone. I took pictures of the monitor when I saw the figures. The first photos showed nothing unusual. I kept scrolling. Then I stopped. My blood ran cold. There they were, two tall figures standing on the porch. They were completely black, faceless. The silhouette stark against the faint light from the camera. One clearly held something small, raised above their head. In the next photo, that object was at the front door's feet, like it had been left there. We looked at each other, no rational explanation. And then, for the first time that night, my partner said, "That's enough." We went out to search the area. We reached the edge of the forest. No footprints, no sounds, no animals, nothing. But that feeling like someone was watching us, stalking us like a foul scent. We went back inside. The woman said she wouldn't stay there for a second longer and planned to drive into town to stay at a hotel. I didn't blame her. We walked her to the car, standing still for a few seconds. My partner got in the cruiser and took off immediately. Didn't even look back. I stayed a moment longer, alone, in the dark, feeling every hair on the back of my neck stand on end. Then I got in the cruiser and left too. But the truth is, to this day, I wonder, who were those figures? What were they holding above their heads? And most importantly, where did that male voice come from? If the woman was truly alone, some things happen in the shadows, in the mountains, in the silence that only deep nature can hold. And some calls, no matter how absurd they seem, should be taken seriously. Back then, I worked at the police station from 3 in the afternoon until 11 at night. It was a small, quiet town. Nothing really happened to keep us awake at night. The only unusual thing was the old fire alarm system. We still used a relic from another time. Years ago, the police department itself used to offer alarm monitoring services for some houses. Although almost everyone had switched to modern systems, about a dozen places were still connected by wires. And since dismantling everything would be more trouble than it was worth, the system kept running silently. Until that day. I was just getting ready to leave when the alarm went off. One of those old, loud, persistent alarms. The afternoon shift operator, already packing up to leave, answered automatically. She figured it was just a faulty connection, nothing unusual. But then the 911 phone rang. Same address. I answered immediately. On the other end, nothing. No voice, no sound, just silence. That kind of silence that makes you imagine the worst. I hung up and ran out the back door, jumped into the patrol car, alerted everyone on Channel 3, both police and firefighters could hear it, and headed straight to the address. It was an old house, located in one of the quietest neighborhoods in town. When I arrived, another unit was pulling up too. We looked around. No sign of smoke, no smell of fire, nothing. Then we saw 2 women walking down the sidewalk. One was pushing a wheelchair. The older woman sitting in it had completely white hair and wore a blue blanket over her legs. Her daughter walked slowly, holding the chair gently. "Do you live here?" I asked. "Yes," said the younger one, surprised. "Why?" I quickly explained alarm-triggered 911 call. They looked at each other. "But no one else lives here," the daughter said. "We went out for a walk just before dinner, and this house doesn't even have an alarm anymore. It was disconnected years ago when we remodeled the kitchen." I looked at my partner. Something didn't add up. "Do you have a new system?" "No. Just regular smoke detectors. We don't even have cameras." We started to circle the house. Everything seemed normal. But when we reached the back door of the kitchen, the smell hit us. Strong, unmistakable. Gas. It was like someone had left the stove on for hours. You could feel it in the air, burning your throat, a slight sting in your eyes. We shut off the main gas valve immediately, opened the windows for ventilation, and when we checked the pipes, we found the crack. The gas line leading to the oven was broken, the daughter explained. Before we left, I spilled some coffee and moved the oven to clean behind it. I think I pushed it back harder than I should have. There was no sign of forced entry, visible leaks, or any other interference. Nothing else in the house had been touched. The 2 landline phones were on the hook. None of the cell phones had made calls at that time. So then who called 911? A few minutes later, the fire chief arrived, a respected, seasoned man, the kind who's seen it all after decades of service. When he saw the 2 women, he went straight to them, and he cried. Yes. A strong, hardened man couldn't hold back his tears. He gently embraced the elderly lady, then shook the daughter's hand as if to say, "You're not alone." Her husband, he said, pointing to the woman in the wheelchair, was the fire chief here for over 60 years, a man admired by everyone, and the daughter's husband was also in our department. He passed away a few years ago, a good friend. We stood there for a few minutes, in silence. That silence now was nothing like the one on the phone. It was the kind of respectful silence you have when faced with something you can't explain. The truth is, technically, that call should never have happened. The alarm had been disconnected years ago. There was no active system. No one called. None of the phones showed any record of a call. No interference detected. But something or someone prevented a tragedy that night. Some would call it luck. Others, coincidence. But me. After that night, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, those who spend their whole lives protecting others are given permission by some greater force to protect the ones they love, even after they're gone. During a period in my youth between the ages of 19 and 21, I worked as a security officer. I wasn't exactly a cop, but the private investigation company that hired me put me in situations that tested both my patience and my sanity. One of those tests happened during a series of shifts that still make me question what I truly witnessed that night. After working 12 straight hours as a security guard at a luxury theater, I got a call from my boss. He wanted me to go directly to a YMCA construction site. He said nobody wanted that post, that everyone had quit. I probably should have paid more attention to that. Without hesitation, I went straight there. I worked another 3 hours alone at that site, under a dark, oppressive sky. When I finally got home, it was already past 9 a.m. Exhausted, I almost collapsed onto my bed, but then my phone rang. It was my brother, his birthday. I'd completely forgotten, so off I went to celebrate with my family. 5 minutes drive into town, a trip to the mall, dinner at a restaurant, all on autopilot. My eyes felt like they carried the weight of the whole world. Around 1 a.m., I told them I had to leave. Staying awake any longer was dangerous. On the way back, I tried everything to stay alert. Loud music, open windows, slapping my own face, nothing worked. I started nodding off at the wheel. At one point, I almost crossed into oncoming traffic. I had to stop. That's when I saw it, an ice cream shop. Alone, isolated, sitting by a rural highway. The lighting was dim, yellowish, but the neon sign was still blinking ice cream sweets. I pulled over. At the entrance, a woman greeted me with a smile that was a little too calm. "Here for ice cream?" she asked. Not daring to say I just wanted to sleep, I replied. "Yeah, I guess I am." I stepped inside. The store's interior was strange, dirty, messy, old furniture mixed together as if it had been salvaged from a junkyard or an abandoned diner. The chairs creaked at the slightest touch, and the lighting felt even dimmer than outside. Behind the counter was the same woman. "2 scoops of chocolate, please." She started scooping before even telling me the price. When I handed her my debit card, she just said, "We don't take cards." Ah, crap, I need to check if I have cash in the truck. Still, she handed me the cone. I went back to my truck, dug around, and found about 50 cents. I went back inside, gave her the money, and apologized. "The cost is $1.80, but this will do," she said with a smile that was way too calm. I thanked her and left, feeling a little dizzy, already devouring the ice cream. Just as I was about to get into my truck, I heard her voice again, now from outside. "You seem troubled, but whatever you're facing, it will pass." You'll be okay." I nodded without saying a word, got in the truck, started the engine, and drove away. The next morning, while getting my uniform ready, I noticed chocolate ice cream stains on my shirt. The memory hit me like an unresolved dream. I decided to go back. The shop wasn't far from home. I wanted to pay the full price and, in a way, thank her for those words. Maybe I really needed to hear them. But when I got there, something was wrong. The shop was closed. Not just closed, abandoned. The sign was off, the windows dusty, the door covered in cobwebs. I peeked through the cracks. Inside, only rubble, like no one had set foot there for years. I got back in the truck, stunned, went online and searched the address. Found an old local newspaper article. The place had been a family-run ice cream shop closed since 1997 after an accidental fire. The owner's name sounded familiar. It was the same name on the woman's name tag behind the counter. She had died in that fire, wearing the shop's uniform, trying to save her brother who was sleeping in the back. And since then, many drivers say they've stopped there, all exhausted, all on the brink of falling asleep at the wheel, all receiving comfort. I don't know what that woman was, but I know that if I hadn't stopped that night, I might not be alive to tell this story. So if you ever find yourself driving late at night, exhausted, and see an ice cream shop lost in the middle of nowhere, don't hesitate to stop. Maybe she's waiting for you too.